working this hard for a reason. In a minute trying to make it real. Saying, baby, this is off season.
Welcome to the Husband Show podcast, the What Up Though edition, where husbands band together to navigate this thing that we call marriage. What up, though, Chris?
What's going on, John? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, brother. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very, very near and dear friend of my heart that we're going to talk to today about some husband things that some men may not discuss, but we're going to discuss them. Me and Chris go way, way, way back when we were stationed at Fort Myer, Virginia, together in the old guard, the military's only ceremonial unit. And we were on the United States Army drill team, and we probably met, I want to say, probably
99.
2000 time frame. And we've kept in touch over the time period. He's done some sneaker pooping stuff around and in his job, and now he's kind of settled down in the Virginia area. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. So Chris, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, John. Happy to be here, man. Yeah, John and I do go way back a long time. He's known me from when I was a young, up and coming specialist, and single Chris to dating, and then married Chris, and all the other stuff with all the kids. It's been a good time, man. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, so I'm from the Washington D.C. area. I was born in D.C., Fairfax, Virginia, to be specific, from Northern Virginia, and do sales engineering for a living. But I've been here with my family. I'm married, and I've got 4 kids. My youngest has got special needs, and that's kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about today. But yeah, Army veteran, and just happy to be here, man. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, man, it's great, and I'm excited about the conversation that you and I are going to have today, and how we can help other husbands and fathers, navigate the challenges and as far as being married and having a special needs son, and also just the
Yeah.
things that the other children may see, and how the wife and the challenges with all that stuff, and just conversate and build off of that. But I'm gonna start off, with the synopsis of this, what the show is, and well, basically, it's like today. We're inviting everybody onto this heartfelt journey of Chris as he navigates through raising a child with Down syndrome from a husband's perspective. That's the biggest part, from a husband's perspective. Through candid conversation, we're going to explore struggles, profound moments, happy moments, and things of that nature, and see how that shapes his family's dynamic, and it also help how it shapes his family story. So we're here today, and we're going to get to the root of things that some men might want to talk about. So again, let's start off with your son's Aiden, right? Caden. Why am I saying Aiden? I don't have no idea why I keep saying
Because you got Aidens in
Caden,
your life, man. You
but
don't
I
have any Caden, and that's
and I
okay.
need
That's I,
I
I
have
do the same thing.
and my little buddy Caden. I should be correct. I'm
Yes.
gonna correct it. My little buddy Caden. If he finds out that I butchered his name, he's gonna have some words for me. My little buddy Caden. You shared with me he has Down syndrome. So share
Mhm.
share with us a little bit more about your relationship as father and son.
So it's a good relationship. So Kaden and I mean, Kaden's like my buddy. He's literally my best buddy. He's definitely a daddy's boy for sure. Much to the chagrin of Valerie, my wife. But yeah,
Hello
pretty much
Val.
anything
Hello Val.
he yeah, she's around there somewhere. Maybe bring her in a little bit later. But yeah, no, it was good, man. So he was a birth diagnosis, so we didn't have any
Okay.
idea that he was going to come out with Down syndrome. All the other 3 kids, alhamdulillah, don't have any other issues or anything like that. So it's not really an issue, right? Because that's what we're here to talk about today, is kind of how it
Mhm.
shapes things and changes things and makes you a better person. But I mean, he literally came out. We had no idea. Doctors had no idea. He passed. He passed all the tests. Came back
Right.
with everything that was supposed to, and then so we had it. So it was a bit of a challenge, kind of things, but it's a bit of a unique story on that
Hmm.
side too. So the reactions, and that was kind of the cool part, because that's what life is, right? It's a journey. It's not the destination; it's the journey that gets there. So the challenge that first arose when he first came out, because doctors don't really know what to tell you, and it's always a sad
Right.
message for some reason, which kind of breaks my heart, man. But it's they're like, oh, well, he's got Down syndrome. So we didn't really know. All Valerie knew was like when he came out was like, she's like, something's wrong, and I was like, what do you mean he's wrong? And she's like, well, he's really limp, and I was like, yeah, he's just exhausted, man. He's got done pushing out. He's probably tired, and he was shaking, and they couldn't figure out like why he was shaking. They thought it was because he couldn't hold his temperature, so they took him away to the ICU. And it turns out, as we found out later, because he has Down syndrome, he's also got autism. He stimmies, so he stims.
Okay,
So like
okay,
when he gets excited, or something happens, like he just like freezes and he does this thing that he does. But that was kind of what it was. So took us a little bit of a while to kind of process that, but man, it was yeah. And I don't know if it's like it's the right play, but I'll kind of set the table for you a little bit. So I mean, so guys, folks, you that are listening right now, like John and I have known each other for a long time. John was my squad leader for a little bit, much to his chagrin, but like we got over that because, like I said, I was a young specialist coming up. And for those of you that don't know younger me, I was, I mean, John can probably describe it. And how would you describe younger, single, pre-married Chris? Because that's important to this story. That's why I'm asking you, man. Go ahead.
oh, it's good. Young single pre-married Chris was a wild cat. He was a wild charismatic. You can look at him and see he's a very handsome young man, right? Very handsome young man. Carries himself well. Very
Yeah,
athletic.
yeah.
Very he was very strong-willed in how he conversated and how he talked. Very strong mind of his own, but he had a little bad boy side to him. Chris had a little bad boy side to him, a little buck wild, you know.
We all did.
Back
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
yeah, we all had a little buck wild that's him, and a
We
little
all
bit
did.
of,
That's why we all
and
got
just,
along.
and of course, exactly. And he flew almost flew by the seat of his pants a little bit. You see what I'm saying? As far
Very
as
true.
he was
Very true.
responsible enough to stay out of trouble, but still had the single man's mentality, but still had a little wild side about him. And I was around when he met his current wife of how many years?
Be 20 to 21. 20, I'll be
21 years.
22 in January. This coming
I
January.
was
Yeah.
yeah, I was around when they were dating, and
You were. You were. Yep.
I was around when they were
She had to
dating, and
pass the buster, man. Yeah, John, to those of you that
yes,
don't know, if you were serious about a girl, you had to bring her and the team had to meet her. And they put her through the ringer, especially the brothers. So it was like, if
yes,
she passed, like you were good. You could bring her around because if she didn't pass,
flying
I
colors,
mean you could still
man.
date, right? But she had to stay over there. Like she wasn't welcome
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
event. So
we were
yeah.
stingy with
We were.
our
We
homeboys'
were.
hearts.
Yes.
We were stingy with their
Yes.
hearts, and then
Yes.
who not that we would authorize, but who we felt like was the better fit for them. And the one thing I can say about Valerie and is that she is very strong willed, very strong minded, strong in her culture and her beliefs, and that's
Yes.
very important behind somebody who thinks and carries themselves like that. Because I could tell you, she reeled him in, straightened him up,
She
grabbed him by
did.
the nape of his,
She did.
grabbed him
She
by his
did.
collar, and
Yes.
straightened him up. And I love the Chris that he was, but I really love the Chris who he is right now. So, to set
I
the
appreciate
tone
that, bro.
for your continued story, sir.
No, thank you, bro. But yeah, so that's a good tone, man. Those of you guys that also don't know, so my wife is Pakistani, she's Muslim, and when we
Hmm.
met, I converted to Islam, 2003. So that's a whole other story for another time. But so
Yeah.
hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of like, yeah. So hopefully it gives you a little bit of like setting for what it is. So, but long story short, everybody has challenges in their life growing up. Everybody has their own struggles, and it's never just a victim game or I had a harder life than you. But like it's definitely been the school of hard knocks. Like we didn't have a lot of money growing up. Lots of people don't. That's okay. You get some lessons from that. You build some grit out of that, or you can go the other way, right, and pick drugs and choose to go a whole different route. But I chose grit, right? And grit was kind of one of those things. But there's one thing that always consistently, and still to this day, always consistently happens for me, and that's nothing ever comes easy. Like something gets laid in front of you, or it's an opportunity. Some people kind of work these like that. Just doesn't happen for me. Like I just got to grind, and then eventually,
Hmm.
literally, somebody will come along and be like, "Dude, this guy's putting the work in." Like, hey, have you thought of X? And that's how it happens. Now, why am I telling you this? I'll tell you why. Because having a kid with special needs, right, is definitely a part of that, right? So they struggle more than other people do. It takes them longer to achieve things than other people do. And so what the beautiful part of all of that is that so here you got this like John was saying, right? Like let's call it for what it is, right? Reformed pretty boy party kid who had three kids, right? Who were all, I was a good father, but I wasn't a great father, right? And I was definitely not a great husband. I was a good husband. We all are. We all have our journeys. But like the only thing I knew how to do was just keep taking hits and keep going because I just grew up with that. Like that's just what you do. It's like rugby game. Like you just take a hit. You might get as far as you want. But you get up and you do it again. And eventually you get to where you need to go because you put in that consistency in that time. And so like I always used to wonder, like in my head, I was like, man, why is it so easy for all these other people? Like you see all these other people around you, and they're putting work in too, but some of them aren't, and that's okay. Some of them just have luck of the Irish are falling in. So I never understood that dynamic of life. But I tell you what, man, like my life got meaning when Kaden came out. So I held him for the first time. So you've got to imagine it was like if I choke up a little bit, it's a good memory for me. So I
Let it go. Let
apologize.
it go.
But
Let it go,
like
brother.
so, you're holding this baby, right? And the only thing I knew about this kid was that he was my son. And I was just like, okay. So I'm looking at Kaden and tell me, oh, he's never gonna do this. And he's never gonna do that. And he's doctors are not being mean, but they're just trying to set the table for you and just kind of lower expectations a little bit, so it's not that hard of a charge. Yeah, man. And so Valerie, like, I mean, because and to also set that perspective, for those of you who don't know my wife, as John knows her very well, my wife is a former accountant, and she's a very strong-willed woman, and she has a plan for everything. Everything has a plan. Check all the boxes, which is beautiful because that's the yin to my yang, right? Like as John was saying, I'm just kind of like, hey, we'll just out there, we'll build it as we fly it, which isn't always the best attitude to tackle life with. So
That's
we
a great
complement each
analogy.
other
That's a
well.
great analogy.
But she was like distraught because she had plans for Kate, and we all did, right? Like this is what he's going to do, and he's going to be this, and that was all gone. So she was like distraught, and that's not a negative thing on her. That happens to a lot of people. Matter of fact, most people that are born, when you start to talk to all these couples that are in similar situations, that's usually the dynamic. One is completely distraught, and the other one's just kind of like, all right, well, let's figure this out as we go. And so then that's the beauty, right? It's the yin to the yang. You're not in competition. You're complementary to each other. So I'm looking at this kid, and I was like, dude, I don't know any. And literally, I'm talking to him as I'm holding him because he's asleep. He's like nuzzled up against me. I was like, look, buddy. I was like, I don't know anything about special needs. I don't know anything about Down syndrome. I was like, but the doctor told me. I appreciate it, man. It's just it was the only one I could come up with at the time. So I'm just like sitting there, and like I'm looking at him, and I'm like, dude, here's what I do know. Things come harder for you. Things are not going to be easy for you. But I'll tell you what, things are not easy for me, and I have to always work. I feel twice, if not 10 times harder than anybody else to get the same thing. So I know what that's like. And we're just gonna go. We're gonna walk this together because if there's anything that I do know how to do, it's that. So I got you. That was it. And then, and in my head it was like, that's it. All right. So that's we're just gonna do this. We're gonna run with it. And dude, he's just been my best buddy ever since. And he was instrumental in making me a better person. Obviously, right? I mean, we get more from him than he gets from us for sure. So I mean, it helped my marriage. It helped me as a father. It helped out all these different things. And it was just that change where you just got to realize it's like, man, it's just not about me anymore. It's about this kid. And keep in mind, to keep a marriage healthy, like we all talked about, you have to prioritize yourself and your wife over your kids sometimes, right? And that's you still have to do that, even with a kid with Down syndrome. But just that part of like just kind of letting go, and it's been great for Valerie because Valerie's now knows, because children, as we all know, you don't always get to do what you want to do. But especially with Kaden, man, because dude, like if you really don't have a choice, it's like he's like, no, I'm not going to do that, or no, like he really can't. So it's like, okay, what do we have to do to kind of manage around this and adapt? And I'm great at that. I thrive in that environment. It's like, all right, well, we took a hit, like and this didn't go as planned. So there's 3 other routes here. What's the best one? Quick analysis, boom, let's go. And infantry, right? You just react to fire. You freaking move out, and you're freaking. But nobody told you to rock. And I love the infantry because it's a great analogy. And I know we all come from those backgrounds, and all you guys went on to other units and did all some good things. It's a great analogy because I said, everybody asks me all the time, dude, like, what was the greatest thing you could do to be a father? You got 4 kids. I'm like, dude, go to infantry school. Straight up, go to infantry school and go be in an. I mean, we were in the old guard, which wasn't a real infantry unit, and I was like, but I'll tell you why, because you put this ungodly amount of weight on your back, and you walk, and you're tired, and you're thirsty, and it sucks. Like there's never a fun part about it. Like but like that's just to get to the objective, and then you got to take the objective, and then you finish the objective, and you got to ruck back up, and you got to get on to the next objective. John knows what I'm talking about. Like it never stops, and until somebody says drop rucks, like you're in, and you just got to summon what you can to go on to keep rolling. And I was like, that's pretty much fatherhood. I was like, because it's a thankless job. Nobody's ever going to thank you. Your wife hardly ever thanks you. Your kids definitely don't thank you until they're older, right? But everybody expects you to keep walking, and they just keep putting stuff in your rucksack, right? And I mean, sometimes life does it. Sometimes the kids do it. A lot of times your wife does it. and nobody ever asks you like, hey, is that heavy? They're just like, what's wrong with you? Like, what? Like, all right. I mean, just long answer to your question for that first one, but that kind of changed that was the pivotal catalyst for me with him. Was just like, all right, man, like I know what we got to do. Let's go.
Yeah, and it's nice to hear, especially when you put the analogy as far as what it's like being in infantry, and how those two things, carrying the weight of the world as far as having a special needs son, and the weight of trying to navigate those things that relates to what I'm saying, dealing with life in general as being a husband. Feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your back, and sometimes you get beat down, you get rugged, and it feels thankless, especially when you get to the objective, and then you have to continue to march. Right, once you get there, nothing has stopped. And I
Nothing to
always I
stop.
always say, yeah, and I always say, drink some water and change your socks
Yeah,
when things get
exactly.
rough.
That's all you get.
But
Yeah.
the mission hasn't stopped, and also the real part that really hits home is when you say that you may take your pack off, but then somebody else is adding more into that pack, adding more into your rucksack, so you have to continue to march on. So being able to navigate all that with you and the wife, I'm pretty sure that y'all had some points to where, um, and we could talk about. You could delve into it as much as you would like. Those difficult
Yeah.
conversations that you and Val probably had to have, behind the door, to where you had to, if or if not having to make decisions, and how did that affect the other children? You can elaborate a little bit of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I don't think we have ever gone through anything challenge wise that every other
Mhm.
person who's married doesn't as well, right? Especially when you
Right.
got two strong-willed people,
Mhm.
things happen. So I think we were just I'm gonna be honest with you. I think we were literally just going through the natural throes of, everybody seems to have they don't call it the 7-year itch for a reason, right? Like there's challenges at 3 years, and then there's challenges at 5 years, and then 7, 10, and then usually if you can get past 10, and I think there's like another one at like 13 or something. But if you can get past all of those, like you're normally for the most part good to go. And I think my believe the reason for that is that and this is my humble opinion as a man, but I think men don't change and
Right.
women
Right.
do. And I think women tell each other the opposite. They're like, "Oh, I don't change, but my man change." Your man doesn't change. We're all men. We all have penises. We're all around each other. Like John and Chris, I mean, you get all the burdens of life aside, we're the same John and Chris that we were 20 years ago. Now, the knees might not be able to keep up, right?
Oh, for
And we might
real.
not have the stamina,
For
but
real.
trust me, like up here, it's still going, man. It's still
That's
changing.
still that
But
hamster wheel
women
is still
change.
burning.
It's still burning. Yeah, there's still like smoke coming out every once in a while. Like we're still like, yeah, myopically focused on things. Like it's just men. It's the nature of men. And I think women have this first of all, they're providers, they're nurturers by nature.
Hmm.
There's an old saying, I think it was Steve Harvey who said, I can't remember, but he was like, that one of the great things about women is like you can give a woman a house, right? And she'll build a home. And that's significant, right? Because she does. She comes in there, she puts herself into it. You've got a
Hmm.
place to stay, you've got decor, you invite people over. Um, but that also comes with its own different dynamics today as well. So I think there's a lot of, and I don't think social media helps. I think a lot of, you see all these challenges, like my husband challenge, like let's see how we, like, just ladies, just stop, just fucking stop. Like it's your husband is fine. You married him for a reason, right?
Right.
Or I don't know, maybe you married him for a different reason. But at the end of the day, like, and the best part, what kills me the most, John, about every single one of these videos, you know what's going on? There's a woman behind the camera, like, well, let me test my husband. And you know what her man is doing? Whatever the fuck he's supposed to be doing. Like my man's either like fixing something or he's mowing the, you know what I mean? Like he's just doing man shit. He's like, yeah, there's something that needs to be fixed around the house. Hell, one guy was over there like putting up freaking like, woodwork on like, just leave him alone. Like he's
Hmm.
probably doing a project you asked him to do on a weekend, which is his time off, because coming
Hmm.
home from work as well. Like, let him alone. Well, let's see what let me ambush him out of nowhere, and then, oh, look at that reaction. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like stop, stop. Like enough. And I know y'all get together in your little groups and y'all
Yeah.
chit chat and you talk about like whose husband is best. And I'm not knocking any of it. I'm just saying like it's all bullshit at the end of the day. Like
Hmm.
men don't change, women change. And so when you go through that dynamic of marriage, right, it's two very strong-willed people that have to figure out at the end of the day that compromise has to be reached. And the problem with compromise is that neither party gets everything they want.
Hmm.
But as long as the greater good is achieved for the betterment of the family, that's the goal. And that was hard for me. That was hard for her. Like, there's a lot of dynamics. So Caden definitely helped change all of that because the whole family dynamic had to change, as I'm sure you can imagine. And that
Hmm.
alone is like a whole other podcast for a whole other thing. But it was good in the sense that she and I definitely became a better people, and we became a better husband and wife to each other.
Hmm.
And a lot of that just came from the fact that it's like you just realize like a lot of the stuff you start in on each other on, it's just petty bullshit, And like especially like
Yeah.
from a man, like and so here's an interesting tidbit. John knows this, you guys don't know this, but like so my son Caden is he's nonverbal. Like he's definitely got some
Hmm.
ability to talk. He'll tell you some words. But at the end of the day, like it's hard to communicate with him. It's not like you and I sitting here talking now. So you really have to shut down whatever you're doing and focus on him. Like,
Right.
okay, he's coming to me from this situation. He's trying to get this out. Like, what's the context behind it? And so that made both all of us in the family better listeners, right? So you put your own
Hmm.
selfish stuff aside and you got to focus on the other person. So, I started realizing like, oh, my wife's mad at me, but is she really mad at me or is she mad about something that happened over here? And then she's just, taking it out on me or something like that. And so I was able to start differentiating that. And I was able to communicate more with her. Like we got ahead of things. I didn't stuff it down inside and then blow up out of nowhere. And she's just like, where is this coming from? It's just like, well, it's coming from 6 months of not saying anything. And then just, because that's what guys do, right? I mean, it's just what we do. We're
Yeah.
just like stuff it down and then, you just snap out of nowhere. You got to get ahead of that. So that's communication. And then, so that was probably, I would say, one of the greatest things that helped us out with that is just kind of taking that selfish part and moving it aside and saying, hey, you know, this is a reaction, right? And there's a cause. There's a symptom. I'm facing the symptom, right? Which
Hmm.
is anger or grief or
Hmm.
whatever. But let's get down to the cause because the symptom is great. Don't get me wrong. Like you need a
Hmm.
hug and you got to get through that. But at the end of the day, what's the cause of what's going on? And the cause of that is this. Okay, then let's sit down like two reasonable adults because we both are, and figure out what we need to move past this and how we most importantly work together to do that. So our communications has gotten a lot better as husband and wife. Like we get ahead of things, and she knows now. Like I mean, and you're married too, John. It's just time, man. Like I
Right.
think the pivotal moment in any marriage is twofold, especially with kids with special needs. It's just like just let it go. Like
Hmm.
seriously, like just let it go. Like my wife knows now. We fought about it for almost 20 years. She just knows I'm a truck guy. She doesn't even ask anymore. She's just like, all right, it's just his thing. Like let it go. Like spent 18 years yelling over stuff. It's just my thing. Like Disney's her thing. I don't always agree with it. I don't always like me. I hate hot weather where I'm sweating all the freaking time, but she loves it, so we go. And it's like, and it's
Right.
enjoyable, and Kaden loves it, but compromise, getting back to that thing where it's just like, what's the greater good for it? So having a kid with special needs, now, don't get me wrong, it could go very badly the opposite way. And I've seen
Hmm.
that happen. I got a good friend whose son is about 9 months younger than Kaden, also with Down syndrome, also was a birth diagnosis. And unfortunately, that broke his marriage. So, and then he had to
Right. Right.
raise that son, who's phenomenal, by the way. They're both phenomenal people. But by himself, like, and I couldn't even imagine being a single parent of a kid with Down syndrome. And now I got fireworks going on. I have no idea what that it was a thumbs up, wasn't it? Yeah, I think so. But it's
That was one of the most entertaining spot on effects. Because the minute you said
that's
wonderful, you
happened.
put your thumbs up. It just that was awesome. By the way, hey, that wasn't no editing, but anyway, continue. What?
I was
Go
okay.
ahead.
I thought that was you on the other end. I was like, oh, John's like setting off fireworks over there. Yeah. So that's good. I hope that answers the question a little bit. It's just
Yeah,
would
it
love
it
your
did.
thoughts on it, but that's what my journey's been.
It did, and to elaborate, it's funny that not really funny, but understanding what you said about being about compromising, and that's something that I'm continually working on is the compromise aspect. And just to piggyback on what you said about hot weather and like my wife absolutely loves hot weather. Me, I love cold weather. Can't get any colder. I function better when it's
Thank you.
cold
Yeah.
outside. I think better when
Yes.
it's cold
Same.
outside. My wife
Same.
absolutely, and she's always and she wants to plan trips and stuff. We went to Mexico and about passed out. We went to Jamaica, about passed out. And she'll sit on that beach as long as she got sun and a breeze. She'll sit out there in that hot weather for the longest. And I have to be better. Me as a husband and as a have
Yes.
to as a
Yes.
partner have to be better at compromising and saying, okay, babe, man, go out there and suffer, in the heat, just because I know because because I know she wants
It's
me there.
important to her.
So it's
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
same with
Yeah.
her sitting out there by herself and me being somewhere in the
Yes.
AC, looking out the window. So I have to work on that part when it comes to compromise. But to go back to what we are just talking about, it's like when you said Kaden was self-diagnosed, well, not self-diagnosed, but spot diagnosed
Right.
on the
But
spot.
birth diagnosis.
By
Yeah.
birth
Yeah.
birth
Yep.
diagnosed, yes, make sure I say it right. Was birth diagnosed. And you know, how did that conversation go with the other three children? Because I'm pretty sure questions were looming. And how did you
Oh yeah.
navigate trying to get them to understand, the challenges ahead? Because I can see and I can understand and believe, especially with your oldest son, I can see the protection aspect kick in and a big brother aspect pick in, and nobody's going to, what I'm saying, mess with, pick on, or say something about my
Yeah.
little brother. So how did that conversation go when you had to tell them what's going on, and how are they, from your perspective, from a husband and father perspective, how are you seeing them navigate through their world now? Because it changed for them as well.
So I think to answer the first part of that, it was honestly a very easy conversation. Kids are
Okay.
resilient. They're a lot more intelligent than what we give them credit for, right? So I mean, they didn't fully understand what had gone on, but it's not like it affected them in any significant way, other than
Hmm.
they now had a little brother, and they knew that part, right? They knew to take care of a sibling. So Yasmin, my oldest daughter, was just she just kind of dived right in and helped out and did her thing. And Lath, as you know, my oldest son, for
Hmm.
those of you that don't know him, same thing, man. He just picked it up and did the big brother thing, and that was good. And ironically, the closest kid to him is Alina, my youngest daughter.
Right.
For those of you folks that don't know, and there's yeah, obviously the shortest age gap between them. Right? For those of you that don't know, my two oldest are in college, and then my Alina
Hmm.
is she's a sophomore in high school. So she's got and Kaden he'll be 11 this summer, so he's got the closest gap. But Alina is the closest to him, man. But they all have their own little special relationship with him,
Hmm.
and he just adores the hell out of him. So I mean, it's just like it's a good thing. But he is that conversation was very simple and it was not
Hmm.
hard and it's really been a joy watching him kind of grow into it and kind of help out. So like Lath, my son, actually now keep in mind, the parents steer right at the end of the day to get it done. But man, he kind of like Valerie made a good point. She one time she's like, well, you need to do volunteer work for college. She's like, why don't you volunteer to do some sports stuff? He's played football, he played
Hmm.
soccer, he played
Very
lacrosse.
athletic. Very athletic.
Yeah, very athletic kid and was much more talented than I was, thankfully. But he got in there, and so he was like, yeah, it's a good idea. So he literally worked together with his girlfriend who wants to be a doctor, and so they got together a bunch of kids with autism, and they taught them how to play soccer. And so that was Lay's thing. Like every
Man, that's
Saturday, they would
great.
go out and do it. And he won an award for it. Like the one of the families that whose son, the mother was like, because her son was like to the point where he would stand on the sideline. He's autistic. He'd stand on the sidelines and would not participate at all until the game was over. And then he wanted to go out on the field, understandably so, and kick the ball around for 20 minutes because nobody was on the field. She said, like, the difference between him and when he started the season versus when he ended, like when he ended, he was actually getting out on the field with the other kids. He was kicking the ball to the kids every once in a while. She's like, that's more progress than we've seen out of him in like 3 years. She's like, so your son was phenomenal. And we obviously, Lace his own amazing person, but you attribute a lot of that back to what he, being the older brother of someone with special
Hmm.
needs. So it's kind of cool watching all the things kind of come around. And so like he's coming back home and this he's doing some volunteer work with some special needs kids as well. And Yasmin is doing the same thing over the summer. So I mean it's definitely changed them. It's made all of us better people. So short conversation, and luckily we got smart kids that have good hearts, and they just kind of dove right in.
But a lot of that is the telltale signs of what great parenting is, and also allowing your children to see the challenges, and then makes them better people in the long run, like you were saying, because
Yeah.
they see the challenges that their little brother's going to have, but they also trying to find a different avenue of how they can help other people with those challenges, and this makes it better because the
Yes.
more you talk about it, the more you understand it, the less it becomes taboo to society, right?
Yes.
Because you still have those assholes out there who look at people and they say certain things, and I know you, and I know how that fire could get under your belly when people are, you know what I'm saying?
Excuse me. Yeah, yeah,
And that's
yeah, yeah. It
understandable
drives me
because
crazy.
you're going to defend your kids, and you're going to want to see them be in a position to where they're not feeling pointed at or disrespected. So I can understand, but it's
Yeah.
also, and it's what fucking sucks to say is understanding the realization of how society is, because you would think
Oh
that
yeah.
good people will
That's well
carry
said.
themselves in a way that's respectful, that's understandable, instead of just being fucking assholes and pointing fingers and stuff. It's different when it comes from
Yeah.
a child who doesn't understand and they ask questions. I get that because
Correct.
they don't have the wealth of knowledge that an adult has. But when an
Yeah.
adult
Yeah.
is being a dick, then I'm like, you should know better. You should understand that instead of just being that person
You should.
or just saying, well,
You
this
should.
person has this ailment, so they can take a back seat, or this person shouldn't be respected because they had this ailment and they should take a back seat. And that shit pisses me off.
As it should, man. I'm gonna drag up an old. It's not too old of a topic, but the perfect example I think about that is BLM, Black Lives Matter, right?
Right?
You and I both kind of went through some new discovery processes with some
Yeah.
friends that we thought were a little bit different, especially in the Army side, and we
Yeah.
found that the good old South wins. Unfortunately,
Every
sometimes with that
single time.
mentality, every time, man, and that's a direct correlation in my mind to what we're talking about with that special needs. And it's like I told all of them, and you and I both, and you watched me get into it with a bunch of folks. I'm like, it's you're coming from a position of ignorance, and you can pardon my
Right.
French on this one too, but you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're not black. You're not disabled. You're not, you know what I'm saying? Like you have
Yeah.
no idea what you're talking about. So why don't you just humble yourself for a minute, sit
Hmm.
down, shut up, and learn something. You're gonna come out of it a better person, right? Just stop fucking talking and telling and getting angry and telling everybody like, well,
Yeah.
this is you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And it's the
Yes,
same
man.
thing
Yes.
for everything on that side. It's that I know what's best, right? That selfishness. And it's like, no, you don't know what's best. So sit down, learn something. These are good people, and let's figure out how we can all come together. And
Yeah.
everybody's got something to offer. Everybody's
Hmm.
got a part in society. Let's figure out how we can work together. And so here's an interesting statistic for you. And this is
Okay.
and when you read up on the history of things, it doesn't surprise anybody, unfortunately. Um, so I think it's over 85, one out of every 700 births are, and this is just America. This isn't the rest of the world. It's just America.
Hmm.
So you blow that up to whatever you need to for the rest of the world. One out of every 700 births are people with Down syndrome. It is a
Okay.
genetic thing. You can't get around it. It happens. Now, I'm a big believer. You know me. I'm a big man of faith. Not everybody is, and that's
Hmm.
okay. But you do your thing. Whatever works for you. But when I see how much Kaden has changed my life and changed my family's life and changed those around him, right? And I've seen it in other families, and it's not just kids with Down syndrome; it's kids with autism, like special needs, what have you. Like, so we terminate these, these pregnancies as a society, which by the way is nothing new. It's been going on since the dawn of time, right? Well, unfortunately, most kids with special needs were locked away, unfortunately,
Yeah.
or they were,
Yeah. Yeah.
killed because society didn't want them. And so, but what you realize is we're missing out on this great opportunity as a human race to just fucking be better people. And we're doing that at our own detriment. So now we're supposed to have the society of like wonderful people and everything's it's not perfect, man. People aren't perfect, but now we have this thing where we're just raising very callous, selfish, self-centered people where if you're not perfect, you don't belong. And anybody that's been bullied growing up when they were younger, it's like you see that. It's all that was the other part I forgot to bring up. It was like being bullied when you're younger, right? Like
Right.
I was
Right.
not always the strapping young man I used to be, right? Or I am now. It's like I was this little skinny fucking nerding kid that had problems talking that, didn't make friends very easily, and I got shoved in lockers and all that fun stuff. I didn't play sports, I wasn't good at it. So another aspect of Caden going back to like, what do we need to help you out with? But we don't as a society we don't celebrate our differences. And you saw that, dude. And I mean, we even see it now in American society with the whole polarization. And that's another topic. I know we're straying off
Yeah,
topic here, but
man.
what I'm saying is that nobody wants to be better. Everybody just wants to be right, and it's we're
Mm-hmm.
headed down a dark path, man. And it starts with how do we treat? I You look at how a society treats people with special needs, and how a society treats the elderly, and how society treats those that have less than them, right? And if that society is one that comes at it with a position of respect and a position of wanting to help, because you and I both know there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of fucking lip service, like, oh well, my faith teaches me. Well, I don't know when the last time you read the whatever book it was at this point in time, but let me
Yeah.
tell you something. You are woefully ignorant. Like you ain't executing anything correctly. You need to go back to your church, mosque, what have you, temple, and start rereading your freaking holy book, because no, you ain't cutting it. And so we've allowed people to continue this perpetuation of ignorance, and they celebrate it. And it's just like, man, it all starts back going back to that statistic of 1 out of 7. How would we all be better people if 1 out of every 700 people we knew had Down syndrome? Just to start, and that's just one special
Right.
need. We'd be a lot kinder as a civilization.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be better
Mm-hmm.
people, and we'd understand it. And here's the key. Here's the best part. It's not just that one of the people's biggest problems is that I feel is that we overall, and this helped me be better as a person, as a father with some special needs. We're always ungrateful. And by the way, we're built to be that way. There's an old Arabic saying, I don't know if you ever heard it, but like, um, it's where God would give man 2 mountains of gold, right? 2 mountains of gold, or excuse me, valleys of gold. And what would man do? Man would spend his entire life searching for that third valley. Why? Because two ain't enough, right? That's just the nature in all of us. So when you go about and you start to walk through these parables, and you look at these things like about what you have with special needs, you start to become a little more grateful for what you have, right? Like, hey, I've got 2 arms, I've got 2 legs. Not everybody does. I've got the mental capacity to get things done. Not everybody does. I've got the ability to communicate and to go out and seek my goals with very little challenges at the end of the day. Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody does. And then when I get there, what am I doing to turn around and help up somebody else who needs it? Am I overlooking color? Am I overlooking race? Am I overlooking special needs? Am I doing all? If the answer to those questions are yes, you're a positive contributing member of society. If the answer to questions are no, I'm not going to reserve any judgment, but you and I are not friends. Like, that's just how it operates. And Kaden was instrumental in kind of teaching. I want to say teaching, reinforcing that in me, because I think I've always
Mm-hmm.
had it. I'm always a
Mm-hmm.
big fan of the underdog, right? But that's kind of like how that makes everything a little bit better, I think. And I think we can do better as a society. But not to bring up that old, but the BLM analogy is always one of my favorites, because you and I, like, we're just like what? Where is this coming from? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you served with these people, right? So some of you guys
Exactly.
got shot at. Y'all got shot at
Yeah.
together, and this is your attitude. Like, this is what you're letting run. Like, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Exactly. And that's a great way of putting it, especially when you said about you can give a man 2 valleys of gold and he's going to spend all that time. It's just being not appreciative of what's right there in front of you. Always trying to find that one next step, to that one up, or that one more thing to make it better, instead of appreciating what you have right now. And it goes back to what you're saying. There are so many families right now, married husband couples right now, who probably can't have children and would do anything on this planet to have a
Uh,
child, right?
yes,
So then you look at
yes,
people who shun other people who children might have some challenges. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
Just because their kids are where they are, their kids they're what they want. And probably also not to throw shade at anybody else. You might have families who give that child up for adoption, man. They see that they're going to have challenges and
yeah,
don't
yeah,
might
yeah,
not
yeah.
have the willpower or the stability to maintain what it takes to raise that child, to see him from to plant that tree and see what it turns
That's
into.
well
And
said.
it might and
That's
it's
well said.
okay. It's okay if you make the choice to hope for that child to
It
get
is.
a better life. It's okay. That's your choice. I
Yeah,
can't judge that because, like you said, I'm not
correct.
in your shoes. So who am I to judge? So it's easy for me to
Thank
say,
you.
I understand. If you want to do it, I understand it. But I look at those people who would do anything that would take those children in,
Yes.
understanding the challenges, because there are husband and wives who take those challenges in just to
Oh yeah.
have a child in their household.
Let's have a child.
Regardless
Yeah.
of what, anything, scratches or whatever, they're going to take them in just to have that child in their household. So it's amazing when you come across people, and it's a different heartfelt, emotional feeling when you see a couple who can't have children. take in a special needs child and treat them as their
100%.
own. It's a it just hits different in society, but it just looks at that there are good people out there just as well.
Yes.
The balance of assholes sometimes outweigh the good people. Right, and it's crazy, right? That
That's
seesaw,
spot on.
that teeter
Yeah.
of assholes to good people is fucking bananas, man. And then and it just goes to how you made the pivot to where you know you need
Yes.
to be, and how it was more instead of it. And how I look at it from what you're saying, I look at it more. It was a blessing to have a child like Caden, because
Oh, absolutely.
your perspective on humanity and how people are
Yes.
changed,
Yeah.
right? It changed,
100%.
and it also it helped build and develop your older children to see that people have challenges, and you can be a good person just by accepting those challenges and moving on. And
You
just
can.
instead of walking past them, if they're trying to get up a step, turn around, put your hand out, and help them get up that step, and then just be
Thank you.
nice, because
Yeah.
you
Just be
never know what
nice.
people are going through. Just be fucking nice. It's
That's a
and it's
thing.
it is
That's a thing. Spot
it
on.
is so it's just it is
Spot
it's
on.
that's not
So
it
easy.
is not hard to just be fucking
No.
nice. You're not It
No.
doesn't cost any
No.
money.
No.
It rarely costs any time unless you put some time towards it. And there's no sweat
Yeah.
involved with that. There's very minimal
None.
heavy lifting or
None.
anything. Just be nice.
None.
Hello, how you doing? Whatever. Cause I'm telling you, when I was over there before we hit that road trip, and my man, I
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
Kaden, and he was on me like
You did.
stank on shit, man. And
Yeah.
he is
Yeah.
absolutely the funniest person in the room when he's in the room. You see what I'm saying?
He's a ham.
He's going
Sure.
he commands his presence in the room. He's the funniest
Oh yeah.
person in the room. And he made it a point to talk to every single person in there to make them feel
Yes.
like, hey, when he's
Yes.
talking to you, you're the most important person at the moment when he's
Yeah.
talking to you. Then
Spot
he
on.
moves on to the
He's
next
all in,
person.
right?
He's all in.
Yep.
He's 100% all in, and
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And I can see how that evolves into you and Vanessa and the rest of your children in a
Oh
development of
yeah.
just being good people. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Is being good people, because I'm sure and you
Oh, it
said
is,
that you
man.
came across that. And as far as from a husband and a father perspective, what advice would you give a husband, that, because sometimes, I guess I don't know the medical aspect of it. Sometimes the doctors can foresee it if,
Oh
if
yeah.
it's going to be a
Yeah.
child,
Yeah.
right? Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, man. No, so I'm gonna drop a little another
Yeah,
analogy on the side.
please
So
drop the
for
nuggets and analogy. I'm learning a
drop
lot,
the
brother.
nuggets, man. Yeah, all the same here. Learn new stuff every day. So um and I apologize for all the sniffing folks, and my allergies are killing me even with the stuff going on. But it's the so there's a when I converted to Islam, right? So I'm Muslim, I'm practicing Muslim, and I'll be honest with you, this just has nothing to do with all that. You can believe in a higher power, you cannot believe, you can be a good Christian, you can be Muslim, you can be, it doesn't matter. It's just walk with me on this a little bit as we kind of talk about like the arc of how it all happened. So if you believe at the end of the day that there is something past this life, not everybody does, and that's okay. So if you don't believe in anything coming after this life, let's just talk about karma, right? So karma in and of itself, you put good out there, good always comes back multiplied,
Hmm.
right? You put bad out there, bad always. I don't care. There isn't anybody out there who's going to refute you on that. So, but let's talk about the higher side of what's going on. So that aside, we're going to put karma to the side here for a second because that's also a part of it. But from a belief system, everybody, at least from the Abrahamic belief side of the house, everybody's trying to get the same place, right? You're trying to get to heaven. And so the understanding is at the end of the day is that heaven is only achievable through God's forgiveness, right? We're all sinners. And at the end of the day, God forgiving us is what gets us into paradise. And there's an old Islamic hadith or whatever, which is similar to a parable for Christianity if people need the mental crossover. And it is that, God, if the human race decided one day that they just shaped up and everybody just started doing good things and stopped doing bad, God would erase, saying from what he said in the Quran and everything else, he would erase that civilization completely and start over because he wants free will. He doesn't want you to come to him and be a better person because you're commanded. He has angels that do that. He's got an entire universe of creation that does what he says to do it simply because it's commanded to do. He wants you to do it because you want to do it. And we all have kids. And same thing, and the analogy for that is like your friend, right? Your best friend, right? You want people around you who support you and like, are a positive influence because they want to be, not because they have to be. Nobody wants people who are paid to do it or because you got lots of money and you're surrounded by the fake friends, right? You want people that are there, like you, doesn't matter what you're going through in life, they're there just because they love you and they just want you to be you and they want to see the best part of you. Same analogy, right? Same concepts from that side. So kids with disabilities on this side. So you get charity, right? At the end of the day from this, if you think about it from the higher level ups, it's coming down. So every second that you're with the person, every time you do something good, you get, charity, karma, call it what you want. And so the one of the greater imams out there, Imam Suleiman, he did this great speech because his son has autism, right? So he knows it and he talks to the special needs community a lot. And so one of his things he's talking about, he says, imagine this. He's like, you have this person that is given to you, right? And who, by the way, most people with special needs, they have what's called, I forget the Arabic term for it, but basically like the pen has been lifted. Like they don't have any sin because they're not right upstairs, right? So they just kind of walk through life. So even when they die, like they go straight to paradise. So he's like, think about this here. He's like, ponder about this here for a second. He's like, not only do you have the ability to care for this person every second of the day, which is immeasurable amounts of good karma, good charity, because this person can't give you back what a normal person can, right? And it's harder, it's more work, it's more money, all of these things, right? You got to put even more of yourself aside because there may not be a phase where that person eases back. And like it may constantly be hard the whole time, but imagine having that. And then he's like, and this is my favorite part. He's like, now everybody dies, and you're all dying, and like you're looking for this path of forgiveness to get to the good place. And he's like, imagine this person has direct access to this place because the pen has been lifted. He's like, and imagine the intercession for them on the day of judgment, right? He's like,
Right.
this child is going to tell God, or whatever your version of that is. For me, it's God, right? It's going to tell God, my father and my mother did everything for me, even though I gave them nothing. I had nothing to give them. Like I had no way to give them wealth. I had no way to give them anything because physically, what have you. And so he's like, imagine that. He's like, you go to the head of the line of everyone else. He's like, just for that, not anything else that you did.
Yeah.
He's like, and then there's all these different analogies where like people do things and God forgives them and grants. It's in the Bible. It's in Old and New Testament. It's in the Quran as well. But imagine like you're talking about. So you step outside of the family for that, and like imagine being a person who just smiles at somebody with special needs or gives them something, gives them a drink of water. Like God may forgive you for that. And like that person may tell God, oh, I remember that person. They did this for me. And I needed something and I couldn't get it. And they did it for me. And you don't think that like right away, like whether you believe in that aspect of it or not, like karma at a minimum is coming back to you. So moving back to what we talked about, like just being a better person, being a better society, like these, and that blew my mind when I heard it. So like as a father, you think about it, it's like, man, all this hardship, because it is hard. It's a lot harder than anybody else. And people have it way harder than I do. There's fathers out there that have kids with special needs 20 times, 30 times, 50 times harder than Kaden has, right? But at the end of the day, you got to think about the end goal, and you got to think about what is that bringing to me. I mean, you can even be selfish about it. Like, what am I getting out of this? And I'll tell you, man, it's that reward side, not only in the afterlife, but here. So Val hates that I did this, but so like when Kaden used to sleep at night, I used to like, I lay down with him and like, he'd kind of fall asleep or whatever. And so I used to tell him all the time, be like, I'd always whisper in his ear. And I used to tell him when he was awake, I'd be like, Kaden. And he'd just kind of look at me like when he couldn't talk, I'd be like, Kaden and I are best friends forever and ever, always. And I would give him a hug. And so like, so now, like when he like, he'll tell it back to me now because, he's 10. And so like, we'll be laying down, like he's getting ready to go to sleep. Like he always goes, like kisses my forehead and goes, Dad. And I said, yeah, buddy. He's like, Kane Daddy, best friend, forever and ever, always. And I said, always, buddy, always. And you give him a hug, you tear up a little bit, and like he just kind of falls asleep. Drives Val crazy. She's like, Kaden, mommy, best friends too.
He's
And
like,
she is. They got their own close relationship. Yeah, he's like,
hey, you're cool.
really though. But yeah, man, it's so that part of it is so rewarding, and that side of it too, and it just melts your heart. And then, like I said, just the ability to take that and have it, carry it into other parts of your life and institute it is you can't put a price on that.
I got you, and that's a great way of rolling to something else I want to talk to you about because right now he's almost 10, working on 11, and I
Yep.
know as a father, and being military and being the jobs and positions that you held over the last 2 decades, and where you are as far as organizing, and also where Val is as far as being a planner,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
and I'm sure you've thought about things. It's like, where do you, how are you planning, and what are some of the steps that you're doing to prepare Caden for the next step when he gets 18, 21, 25? Because you may be, I'm not sure, maybe in a position to where it would be long-term care or representation with
Yeah,
him, just to
good
see,
question.
just to see him be a success, right? And then have you thought
Hmm.
about, and I'm sure you have, and what are the things that he's doing to where he can, do some self things, or do some,
Yeah, yeah.
monitored things. Have you had that thought and that conversation, and where you are with that?
That's a great question, man. So yeah, we have, and so it's kind of so we do things a little bit differently. Like and like I said, if you think about from the listener perspective, right? The question you
Hmm.
just asked, like, what are we doing to prepare Caden? So the answer is like, so we actually took him out of public school. This is his second year that he's been homeschooled. And it's not that our public school, Loudoun County, they were
I know.
phenomenal, man. They were just really good.
Top, 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 top
But
shelf.
top shelf, man. But he was in a class with a bunch of other kids with special needs, and so the care wasn't there, right? And so
Mm.
and it's hard, man. Like those teachers, like they need to be paid way more money than they're paid. They're
Hmm.
angels, they're saints. What they have to deal with on a daily basis, and then the love they have for those kids is absolutely amazing. So we're homeschooling him, so he's learned, and you also got to be realistic with yourself, man. I mean, you hear, and so Down syndrome it's not all the same. It comes with varying levels of capability, right? Mental and everything else. And Caden is probably physically, like muscle wise, he's got strong muscles, and he doesn't have any kind of like issues with that. But mentally, obviously, he's super smart. But here, like he can't
Hmm.
talk, and he doesn't really like signing. So is that going to affect his ability to do things down the road? Absolutely. He's autistic, right? And he's
Hmm.
got that point where like he'll start down something, and you saw when you came over, right? Like he's got his little spiel, and then if you interrupt his spiel, you don't give him the answer he wants. What does he do? Starts over, and he's got to get
Yeah,
his answer
yeah,
that he wants or
yeah,
do his thing.
yeah.
And that's an autistic thing, so that feeds in the Down syndrome, which is challenging when he can't tell you what it is that he expects you to do.
Hmm.
So we put together some things, and we kind of came up with the following. So different cultures treat family stuff down the road differently. And I'm not knocking anybody's thing at all, but we've always, from day one here in this family, have always known two things. Like, first of all, when your parents get old, you're going to take care of your parents. That's just the natural cycle of life, right? That's how I was raised. That's how Valerie was raised. Um, and then when we come back in, same thing with the kids. So we've been telling the kids from day one. Like I tell Lath, like I had a very, very like pretty I would say kind of man to man talk with Lath before he
Hmm.
left for college about a lot of things. Same stuff, guys talk about, your father to son, and your son ignores you and goes out and does the same stupid stuff you did when he was, so it's hard to get mad at him because you're like, oh,
I
dude, like,
understand.
you know what I
I
mean? You're
understand,
like,
but don't
shh.
do it. I get it, but don't do it.
Don't I get it, yeah. Just don't let your mom find out, and then you're really in
Yeah.
trouble. Or I would have done it differently. But anyways, but I had to talk with him. I said, look, man, I said, you're gonna go to school and you're gonna have to learn. I said, and here's the hard reality of life. Just being a male, right? We talk about this
Hmm.
going right back to the husband-wife dynamic. I said, your sisters are gonna get married at some point. They may or may not. I don't know. But I'm saying, but like whoever they bring into their lives, right? Like that's somebody that's on the outside. And you're gonna have a wife. But here's how it works at the end of the day. Like you are gonna be technically when I die, you'll be the head of the family. I was like,
Hmm.
and all of you are gonna have to take care of Kaden, but whether you like it or not, that responsibility falls mostly on you as the head of the
Yeah.
family. I was like, so everything I'm doing for you right now, all of the money that I that I don't spend on my toys that I would like to have, and everything else that I put towards your education and all of these sport, like I was like, this is all to get you on my shoulders. And I said, and here's an interesting concept. A lot of women don't realize this. So ladies, if you do listen to this podcast, listen up. Something to remind yourself for, because I tell my son this too. If you're a good father, which a lot of you out there are, some of you aren't. If you're not, and you listen to John's podcast to get some lessons, here's another little tip for you. The way you look at your son is this, right? If he's a good man, there's some out there that aren't, and that's okay. But if they're a good person, the dynamic should be this. There is not one. I tell my son this all the time. There's not one man on this planet, not one, that wants you to be better than them. He's right here. I was like, I want you to be better than me. I was like, there's not one iota of jealousy in me if you're better than I was like, I hope you do 100 times better than me
Mhm.
financially as a human. I was like, you're my son. I was like, that's I was like, if I don't do anything right, like that's my job is to set you up and to make sure that you are successful, you're a good person, you're a productive member. So I was like, and you take care of your brother. And I told our girls the same thing. Val and I both do. Like, you are going to take care of it because I was like, he's going to live with us, like you were talking about. He'll have a job, and
Mhm.
he may do it part time, he may do it full time. We may even start a company for him. There's a lot of companies out there where parents have done that for the kids with special needs. That's probably the
Yeah.
route we're going to go. Um, but it's important for us, like, take care of him. We tell the kids always, like, there's going to come a time where your mother and I will not be able to care for him full time. I was like, and when that happens, I was like, make no mistake about it, you will step up. You will, like it's just not even, and not even we get pushback from them, but it's like, I don't care if you guys carve it up 3 different ways, but you will all come together and you will let your spouses know at the same time, like, he is a priority. I was like, before you get married, you need to have that conversation because it's
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
happen. He
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
come live with you at some point. And I told Lath, I said, if some girl has a problem with, your special needs brother coming to live with you, I was like, you need to dump her faster. And I told the
That's a
girl the same
telltale
thing. I was like,
sign.
that
That's a
person,
telltale
telltale
sign
sign right
about who
there.
the yeah.
Going back to that other conversation we had, yeah, about
Mhm.
those people. So that's the plan. And so I don't, we're going to set him up with as much life skills as we can. But at the end of the day, he will always, God willing, be surrounded by loving family to support him because his success is our success, and that's how we're going to do that.
And that's what, and that's a great response to that because me being on the outside looking into your life and how you're living that with the in your it's not a situ I don't even want to say situation. I don't like the way predicament sounds.
Oh, you say
That all
you can say
sounds
situation. It's fine.
no, but it's not. But I don't look at it as a situation. It's just your current
Right.
living, your current reality. It's not a
Yeah.
situation. It's your
Yeah. I
reality.
got you. Reality
You
is
see what I'm
good. I
saying?
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
how you're living
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
and your family is living in your reality is to have a plan, as far as to see his success when
Yes.
we're gone. Because sometimes we all gonna check out. It is what it is, and that's just being that's not
It is what it
dormant
is. Yeah.
or anything like that. It's just the nature of the beast. But I like how you establish those steps
Set that
and
precedent
those
for the kids. Yeah.
expectations and
Absolutely.
the
Yep.
precedent for your
Yep.
kids as far as and let
Yep.
them know now so they don't find out because when they find out it's different and it's also important
Yeah.
and imperative for them when they're selecting their mate to understand, hey, I have a package deal coming with me. At some point you're going to meet my family. At some point you're going to meet my baby brother, and that's going
Yeah.
to and it's going to dictate how our
Yeah.
relationship builds from that because if you're a mean
Hundred
if you're
percent.
an asshole in general, then I'm not even going to introduce you to me. I'm not. Why the hell am I even
No.
fucking with you right now? Because you're a dick. Because that's
Exactly.
going to dictate.
Exactly.
Because
Yes. Yeah.
before they even meet them, you can see how that person is in general as a human being. And
Yeah.
if they're a dick, to
Yeah.
wait
Yeah.
staff or people that's less than or have than, it's going to set
Oh,
the
I hate
precedence for
those.
who they are as
Yes.
a person. Because
Person.
if you don't have patience for somebody who you don't know, and respect for somebody who you don't know, imagine what you're going to have for somebody who you do know or somebody that's in the
Yeah.
special needs,
Yeah.
what I'm saying, realm.
Yeah.
So to
I mean,
hell with you, buddy.
5 times worse.
Five
Yeah.
times worse.
Cut them loose.
And understanding, to get ready to close out, I have another and I know that, the state, regulates and have supporting
Yes.
things that they
Yes, they do.
have, which
They do.
I found out today when I was doing my due diligence and doing a little bit of homework. So I wanted to find out, what I wasn't going to do is come in here blind, but I wanted to see your perspective. And you schooled me on a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that I didn't know. That makes it even more, it makes Kate even more one of my favorite people. You see what I'm saying? Just understand it from your
It's good.
perspective
It's
and the
good. Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that you're telling me about. And I know that there are systems and the structures that states have, which I think is fucking
Yep.
awesome. Me and my wife talked about that today.
Yep.
That is great. She learned me on that because she knew, and I said, "Yeah, they do." And I said, "Oh, so thanks, babe." So it's great
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
she
Yeah. Yeah.
knows, and we stay abreast of that because we're nice people, and we live
You
in this
are. You are
we
good people,
live
man.
nice, and we try to
Yes.
understand that people have challenges, people have struggles, people have successes, people have failures, but who are we to judge? It is what it is.
Exactly.
So
It is what it is.
it's a twofold question, right?
Okay.
Can you cover some of the institutes or things that parents should find information about or look into, because I'm pretty sure the hospitals and the doctors give you that. But some of the things that they should think about when they're
Oh yeah,
walking into
yeah,
that,
yeah,
and also
yeah,
some
yeah.
of the advice that you would give husbands and fathers about, having those conversations and that things that you would tell that a father should be able to discuss with another father about having a child like Kaden.
Okay, sure. So, I mean, obviously, education is the key to everything, right? You got to be
Right.
educated on where you are and what's going on, like you said. And so, each state has its
Hmm.
own provisions that it can bring to the table, and you should
Okay.
know what those are. Like, I'll give you an example. So, like Virginia is not as good as, like, let's say New York or somebody
Hmm.
maybe up in New England or whatever. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to hurt some feelings with it. A lot of those red states, man. Like they may tell you otherwise, but you compare those special needs programs. I mean, even Yunkin right now, like Loudoun County, man, Loudoun County's been slashing, and we're the most blue area within Virginia. They've been slashing special needs programs because it's easy, right? Like and it's a sinister thing. Like here's how shitty we are as a society. Sometimes you can cut a lot of the funding out of the special needs stuff, and then and that also goes to the care of the elderly, just for those folks. That's regular
Hmm.
elderly people. It all fits into one bucket because it's easy. Because do you know why? And I'll tell you why. Because who's going to push back? They don't have a voice. There's nobody fighting for them. You got parents.
Yes.
You got some old person who just watched their benefits get cut. Special needs person who got their who's going to fight for them, right? It's a really shitty thing that we do to the people in our society. And America's fucking horrible at it. Like I'll just tell you like it is. Europe way better. I know I'm gonna hurt some feelings on that one, but like Europe is way better. And you got to look at your state, man. So we were looking to move out of Northern Virginia and go down south a while back, like everybody did, right? Cost of living was
Hmm.
easier. Man, let me tell you something. We started doing some research on what the Medicaid, Medicare, all the other
Right.
stuff that was available for Kaden was in these other states. It's horrible. It is horrible. And I mean horrible in a sense like if that's all you've known for a couple generations and you grew up with it, I'm happy for you. But when you look at like what you have up here versus what you have up in New York, which you get like say Florida, like dude, we loved Florida. Like Valerie has been wanting to move to Florida for years, and then we did the research on what we were going to get in Florida with Kaden. Like we were going to get put on a wait list for possibly 15
Dang.
years. And even after we got through that, like the amount of stuff that he got from the state, awful, like absolutely criminal. People should be strung up over the lack of stuff that
Oh
they
my
do in
God.
some of those states for the stuff, but a lot of those states are also struggling to keep their own stuff together, right? Like, I mean, how many special needs stuff are you going to get in Mississippi? Mississippi's got its own freaking problems. Like it
Yeah.
can't even get its own crap together, and it's gonna be worried about the special needs community. So how anybody lives there with people with special needs, I have no idea. Stuff like that. But you got to elevate yourself. You got to educate yourself, and you got to start prioritizing that. So the advice that I would give as a father, I mean, now let me tell you something. That's where Valerie shines because that's her mo, man. She just like she breaks out her stuff. She's got a little research. We put everything in buckets, and dude, I mean, John knows Valerie very well. For those of you who don't know, she was an accountant before she became a stay-at-home mom, and that woman's a pit bull. You give her something, and she's onto it. She does not let go. She will chase down to the ends of the earth the person that owes her that thing, and she does not let go until she gets it every time. And so that was great for us being special needs parents because you've got to have somebody that has that ability to be kind and compassionate on both sides. Here's a piece of advice for folks. If you are not a upfront person and you're not used to advocating for yourself or advocating for somebody else, you need to get over that shit quickly because
Hmm.
you're all they have and you got to get in there. You got to advocate. You got to make these things happen. So educate yourself and be that person, that child's best advocate, and don't take no for an answer. And if you get no for an answer enough times to where it's being detrimental to the care and all that, then guess what? You need to move. You got to go find another place to live because that child depends on you. And your quality of life is dependent upon that. Because let's face it, look at it from a selfish perspective. You don't have the same opportunities, the same time, the same everything that someone with a kid without special needs has. Right? You got a lot more burden on you in a lot of different ways. So if there's no compensation, if there's no help there, you gotta figure out a way to make that happen, man.
That's definitely a lot to take in and a lot to for the younger fathers and fathers like that who find themselves in similar situations or what's up.
You just brought up a great point. Younger fathers,
Hmm.
guys, as men, John knows about this. We talk about this all the time. Reach out. you don't have to go it alone, man. I'm horrible at it. I'll be the first person to tell you I suck at reaching out. I'm terrible at it. But yes, if you're in a problem, jump in. And a quick story here: the gentleman who is the father of one of Caden's best friend, right? When they got married, unfortunately, his marriage didn't survive. That guy jumped on Facebook. He literally jumped in the hospital after his son had been born, and he found the Facebook page for the Nova. What do you call it? You know, parents of Down syndrome. And he straight up asked. He's like, "This is who I am. This is my wife. We just had our son. What do we do? We're thinking about giving him up for adoption." And in no judgment, right? Like he just didn't know what to do. Like this was their only kid. They didn't know this was coming. And man, like I know he and his wife didn't make it, but he's one of the sweetest people here, dude. 900 comments later, like everybody's just dogpiling in a good way. Like, oh, here's pictures of our son, of our daughter. Here's same thing, birth diagnosis or not, and here's all the amazing. Like, just everybody's just kind of giving their little pep talk. And you need anything, here's my number directly. Call me. Like, and they reached out. Like, people started calling the hospital, myself included, and just might have been a little invasive, like trying to talk to the guy, but just tell him like, don't. There's more to this. Like, it's not the end of the world, man. It's going to be a good thing. So the biggest thing you can do as a man, because it's hard to, is just admit that you need help. And I promise you, here's the cool part, you're not going to experience anything that thousands, if not tens of thousands of other fathers haven't experienced the same thing. So help is out there. Experience is out there. Don't be shy. There's no judgment, man. It's one team.
Yeah, and it's great that you said that because I always tell people, civilizations have been around for at least 2-3 months, give or take. Civilization.
Yeah, a little
So
bit.
it's very few people out there that are in extremely unique circumstances, right? So
Yes.
nothing too much is new. It might be new to you,
Correct.
but it's not new to anybody else. It's just part of you doing your due diligence and doing your research to see how it affects you and how you can move forward with it. So part of that is, like you said, doing your
Yeah.
research, reaching out, joining Facebook groups or any type of messenger groups and trying to find out stuff. Because I see some of the stuff that you posted is freaking hilarious. You see what I'm saying? Because with everything that goes on in the world, there's always a brighter side. Or
There
something
is.
I always say: when you think things are really, really at its worst, imagine it being at its worst and somebody's shooting at you. So you really don't got it
Thank
that
you.
bad. You see what I'm
You don't
saying?
got that bad, man.
You don't got
We
it that
don't got it
bad.
bad.
Nobody's
We
shooting
don't
at
got
you.
it that
So
bad.
everybody
Yeah.
just take a
Yeah.
moment, reset, reorganize, and then calm down, simmer down, Donna Summer, simmer
Yeah.
down, and just take it as take it as what it is because at least you're alive and noticing that you got it bad. It's nothing worse than being dead and then realizing that you got it bad because it's too late.
But you got it bad. It's too late at that
You
point.
got it bad. It's too late at that point when you don't realize you got
It's
it
too
bad.
late. There's
But if
nothing you do.
if
Yeah.
you're breathing and you're walking or you're existing and you know you got it bad, that there's chance of you to be able to get it right, right? So I really
100%.
appreciate that. I really appreciate the time that you sat with me today, man. And this
Yeah, man.
and
Appreciate you
it's
having me.
great for as long as I've been knowing you, being able to see a different side of you. You see what I'm saying? And how you would lighten up and how you would
Thanks,
glow
John.
when you're talking about Caden and how you were talking about your family and talking about Val. And I hope it was just as therapeutic for you as it was for me to hear from your perspective. And this is something that I want all men and all, especially husbands and fathers, to get used to, is that you have professional therapist, and also you have the therapist of your friends. And the therapist of your
Yes.
friends will give it to you cut and dry. Because I know if I'm jacked up, you're going to tell me I'm jacked up. You're not going to sugarcoat it. You're going to be straight up, and you
Yeah.
fucking up. Pull your head out of your ass. And I will reciprocate
Yeah.
the same with you. And I'll be more acceptable to taking it from somebody who loves me for who I am, other than love me for the
Yes.
check that I leave on the counter when I walk out from getting
Yes.
therapy. So
Amen.
husband therapy is very important, and you've learned. I've learned a lot, more than what I bought you from this conversation today, and I really, really do appreciate that you have. You got any final thoughts that you want to give us?
I don't think so, man. Just yeah, just be open, be a good person. Everything we taught you, you take anything away from today, I think we can all agree on this. Just be open to other things, right? Just sit,
Mm,
like God gave you two ears, one mouth. I think we've heard that from our parents and grandparents more times than we all care to remember. At least our
mm,
generation did, right? Like just shut up and just listen for a second and just try and see the world. If you do one thing every day, I'll tell you something. I'll part with this. there's two things I do every day when I get up in the morning. First is I remind myself, I pray, and then I remind myself of everything that I have, the blessings that I have, and I'm grateful for it. The second thing is like, how do I leave the world a better place today? Because it may be a crap day, and I may not know what's coming,
Hmm.
but did I smile at a person? Did I give a kind word? Did I not give an angry retort? Did I take a different perspective? Did I learn something new today? Just do that every day, man. Set those two things up for yourself, and I promise you, no matter what you do in life, you will look down that road 10 years later and realize you are a completely different and better person, and society is better for having you in it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And one of my final thought, and I'm going to leave with this little tidbit. Uh, navigating the complexities of raising a child with Down syndrome requires ongoing communication and understanding between partners, husband and wife. In every challenge lies the opportunity for growth and love. And parenting a child with Down syndrome is a testament of that. Together, let's continue to celebrate the unique journey of raising extraordinary children who inspire us with their boundless joy and resilience. And that, my friend, I'm going to end it on that note, man. Thank you for taking the time out today, man. I really do appreciate it. And we're going to get back
Thanks
and
for
link
having
up,
me.
man, rather sooner than later, man. It's definitely been a blessing, man. And hey, this is John from the Husband Show podcast. What Up Though edition, where husbands bond together to navigate this thing that we call life. Peace.
And I'm working this hard for a reason.